Hello, my name is Malik Abazdab. Welcome to PM Express. Children are the cloth of the body. Without children, you are naked. This is a Yoruba saying. In many cultures in Africa, in particular, and in Ghana, a man's wealth may be measured in part by the number of children he has, and a woman's value to her husband is determined by the ability to bear children. Largely, African societies regard children as the most important asset in every successful marriage. Childless couples, therefore, become an object of ridicule in many communities. Research published by the Huffington Post shows that childless couples divorce more often than couples who have at least one child. Of the divorced couple in the United States in the 1950s, 66% were childless compared to 40% who had kids. This is because the absence of children leads to loneliness and weariness. Many, especially women in Ghana, are grieving as childlessness threatens their marriage. Should a marriage collapse because there is no child? Why are women often blamed? Are there any remedies to this problem which gnaws at the sacred bond between married couples and destroy families? When we come back from the break, I will introduce to you my guest who will provide you with all the answers. You're watching PM Express. Keep watching. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and we are talking childlessness in marriage. Why is this such a big problem? My guests are Dr. Florence Nab. She is a lecturer, University of Ghana, Nursing and Midwifery School. Doctor, you're welcome. And of course, a friend of the show. I've hosted him on this show before. I'm talking about Reverend Father Johannes Minta, a marriage counselor. Reverend, welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start with Reverend. Why is childlessness such a big problem?
You see, why do we marry? One fundamental reason why people marry is because they want to procreate and then socialization of the children. So marriage itself implies that there is the desire on the part of the couple to at least bring forth an offspring and subsequently train them to become whatever they want to become. So that through marriage, we extend our generations. Through childbirth, generations are extended. So when couples are married and for whatever reason that is not forthcoming, it really affects the relationship. Besides, when you even look at our African setting, the issue of children are very important, very important. I think it's more important than even money. You may be wealthy, but if you have no children, they might consider you to be nobody.
Doc, you have a foundation, the Oh Happy Day Foundation, and the purpose of this foundation is essentially to provide counseling services for parents or for couples, especially married women who have problems with fertility. The definition Reverend just gave, is that not the foundation for the pain that childlessness causes? Because at the center of his definition is that children is central to marriage.
Yes, and that is the main reason, because children are the center of marriage. That is the reason why it is a grieving process when it doesn't happen. We all agree that in our culture, especially here in Ghana, we are socialized as we are growing to understand or to believe that the main purpose for marriage is to have children. And so as we are growing, even before you meet your partner, you already have in mind how many children you want to have.
Wow.
Without meeting a partner. And so when you meet the partner, you marry, and then the number of children you want are not forthcoming. Sometimes you even decide, I want 2 girls, I want 2 boys, before you meet the man or the woman. So when you marry and it's not coming, that's when the grieving process starts. And that is the problem.
Okay, so what are the figures? We know that in many parts of the world, especially the US, and I just gave the statistics, do we know in Ghana the rate at which childlessness causes breakdown of marriages?
Thank you. In fact, The only study that reported the prevalence rates is very old now. It was done in 2002. Okay. And that study reported 15% among men and 11.2% among women in Ghana. But if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, the prevalence rates range from 20 to 46%. But in Ghana, since 2002, we haven't really come up with any study to be able to estimate the prevalence again.
Reverend, why is that? Because given that this is such a central problem and which causes pain in many homes, should we not be conducting researches, and counselors such as yourself, should you not be sponsoring researches to guide the kinds of counseling that you provide?
Oh, that's exactly so. We must do more research into this. We must talk about it. But one thing is, usually people frown on, even when you are childless, you don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Many would not like to talk about it. Many would not even like to allow themselves to be interviewed mm-hmm. By researchers, because they feel that you are, the pain, as Doc said, the pain of being childless, the person is coming to remind you of your childlessness. Is the person not going to use it to tease you? Or what does the person want? If I'm this and so on. So it makes it very, very difficult, and getting respondents, I believe that it needs time as society progresses and as you move from one level to the other. I'm sure people may come to terms with their situation, their mm-hmm. condition, mm-hmm. then they will not be afraid to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Then they may avail themselves for.
Doc, you agree with what Reverend is saying?
Yes, yes, I agree. And the reason why psychosocial counseling is very important is because of what Reverend just said. We want people who are struggling with infertility to come to that level of acceptance. As we spoke about grief, if you look at the normal grief process, we all grieve every day. When you lose a loved one, when you lose something important, you grieve. But so there are about 5 stages of grief. And then, so you go through denial, you go through anger, you bargain the situation, you go into depression, and finally you come to accept that you have really lost something. Now, the problem with infertility or childlessness is that when they get to the anger stage and then the depression stage, they are stuck. They are not able to move to the acceptance stage. And so they grieve throughout their life. When you want to talk to them about it, they grieve. For the women, every month, they grieve when they menstruate. They grieve when they see couples with children. So the grieving is almost like part of their lives. And that's why they need somebody to help them live with that kind of situation.
Are there any known causes of infertility? Are there any factors that a person may be predisposed to that increases a person's risk of suffering infertility?
Yes, usually I would like to divide these factors into 3. We have the biological factors, we have the psychological factors, and then the social factors. Okay. So the biological factors are those that you go to the hospital, the doctor will send you to the lab, run a series of tests, and be able to say that maybe the woman, your tubes are blocked, or you have a fibroid, or you have some kind of infection, or maybe the man has low sperm count and all of that. Those are the biological factors. Now, psychologically, as soon as a couple is told that they have infertility, they begin to think. Both the man and the woman are thinking. And the denial stage has already started. The man is thinking, no, it's not me. And the woman is saying the same thing, no, it cannot be me. You know, so the way they think lead them to worries. The worries will lead to depression, will lead to sleepless nights, and those are the psychological problems. Now, socially, they live in a community, and people would watch as soon as you get married. Within some few months, it's almost as if they are watching the period of the woman. People will start to talk. It's a year now, no pregnancy. What is happening? Is she infertile, or is she barren, or is the man? And then before you realize, they are gossiping about the couple. And those are the social factors.
And I note in your response that the first question is she barren?
Yes.
Why, Reverend, why is it that the first question always goes to the woman?
You know, in Akan, there's a saying that we have, Obatan is a woman who carries the baby. When a man is, a man will not get pregnant. And they want to see you, the woman, something must come. Okay, and it's easy to see in the woman than in a man. Because the man's one is hidden. If you have low sperm count, it takes only a laboratory test before you can know that you have low sperm count. But if you cannot get pregnant, we see, when you get pregnant, it shows. So it is easier for society to blame the woman than the man. Maybe until recently, many Africans did not even believe that a man can be infertile.
Wow.
Yeah. See, because I mean, the blame has always been on the woman, and who is either a witch or somebody bewitching, or traditions and others have been associated with some of these things. And so you can imagine why the woman is always blamed. The man is, even if he's 100% responsible, he's not. Of course, he came to marry you, and he is expecting you to get pregnant. But how you get pregnant, he doesn't care.
And yet the people who are expecting the woman to get pregnant ought to know that the man must plan something in order for the pregnancy to materialize.
Well, at the time when maybe the father met the mother, they didn't think about it. They just met, and the child came. And so they don't even know all these, whatever goes inside and what. No, they are expecting you to get pregnant. Unfortunately, and innocent women are blamed for reasons.
And Doc, you were nodding in agreement.
Yes, I was nodding because it is the reason why the men are not blamed is because of our culture. Because if you look at other parts of the world, the experience of infertility is the same. If you go to the advanced countries, experience is the same, whether a man or a woman, they grieve the same way. And each of them, accept the blame for what is happening. But here in our setup, we again, as Father said, believe that men don't become infertile. Meanwhile, physiologically, we actually share the causes. If you look at the causes, the actual, the biological causes of infertility, in 40% of the chance is the man's fault, 40% of the chance is the woman's fault, the 20%...
It's so equal, it's split.
It's equal, exactly. So the 20% is either a combination of the two, or we don't know where it is coming from.
That's amazing.
Yes. So scientifically, we share the causes. But it is our culture that makes us to believe that men don't become infertile.
So why is it that even amongst educated couple, this idea that the woman is largely responsible is pervasive?
It is also pervasive probably because we don't, our, again, culture is such that we don't allow our men to grieve. It is abnormal to see a man obviously grieving. Otherwise, when you look at research, in fact, I did a study among men. My first study on infertility was actually among men with infertility.
And you are a researcher.
Exactly. And so one of the main findings of that study was that the men were so worried, not because of the diagnosis of infertility, but because of what people were doing to their wives, their families, and society. That was their main worry. You see, so it's not as if the men don't care. They do care, and they know that they have it. But those men that are studied, they were medically diagnosed to have infertility. They tried convincing their families that this is my problem. My wife has nothing to do with it. But but it
one would say they are brave to do that.
Yes, yes. So I don't always agree when we say the men don't suffer. They suffer in silence. They suffer in silence. But it is our culture that is making us believe that the woman should always be blamed.
Reverend, what do the counselors tell a man who is in that kind of situation?
What can you do than to advise a man to accept the situation?
But Doc just pointed out that's the most difficult part of it.
It is the most difficult. It is the most difficult. And that is where the challenge is the most difficult. You see, the man will always deny. If you're lucky, you may get few whom, as Dr. said, might accept. But majority of them in public, especially when it's not a matter of impotency, but infertility.
Strike the difference for me.
You say you must be able to ejaculate. You must be able to penetrate. You must be able to erect. Okay, and that is not just enough, but the sperm must be potent also. So somebody may have all of them. He's able to do it. All right, and everything comes out good. So who are you to say that he is not? Those who may accept are those who are weak, or may not be able to, to erect. Those ones, they may admit and maybe be very humble, but when your wife gets to know you are in trouble, the woman will also not let you have your peace at all. The woman can also rub it on the man, especially those who are not able to erect and others. And that's why many of them end up becoming alcoholics, and some may even end up their lives, because the pain of being tortured by your wife. Okay, so
and you are saying this happens in real life, that the woman can actually embarrass her husband for not being able to perform or function.
Sure.
What did you find in your research? Did you come across similar scenario or situation where this happens?
Yes, definitely. So divorce or marital insecurities is one of the problems of infertility. And it's interesting, something I found in my research, infidelity is actually a coping strategy for both the men and women. So sometimes the
Can you say that again?
Yes, infidelity
is a coping strategy.
It's a coping strategy, which I found in my research. And it's for both the men and women. Sometimes the couple will agree. If it's the man will say, I know it's my fault, we don't want to divorce, so you can go. If you get pregnant, I'm ready to father it. They agree and it happens. Yes. Sometimes it could also be the man is saying, no, I've impregnated a woman before, I will try outside. The woman is saying the same thing. She will also try somewhere. And then one of them,
mutual understanding between them.
For some of them, there's a mutual understanding. Those who really want to stay together, there's a mutual understanding. Those who are fighting the situation and fighting themselves, they are trying it secretly. So if the man succeeds, yes, he's been able to demonstrate that he can produce. If the woman succeeds, she has also demonstrated. But the problem with the women is that when you get pregnant, you come home, it's a man's, pregnancy.
So what happens under those circumstances, Reverend? So whether they agree or they are hiding and doing this, what does that not generate complications?
Well, a friend says the absence of nothing bad is good. So there's nothing. So you take the lesser evil. So yes.
We are assuming that is lesser.
Well, that in their minds, okay, in their minds, they think that usually, you see, when the problem is with the man, it's very easy for the man to go through what Doc said. If it is, if the problem, the man, then he will be very, very humble and will negotiate and please, if you leave me, everybody will know that I am this and that. But what is in the case of the woman, the men are too quick in trying to leave you. Yeah, they are very quick in leaving you or hitting from all directions.
Does age play a role in all of this? Can we say, depending on a person's age, a person is more likely to be infertile, or it doesn't? In terms
of women, yes, it does. When a woman is aged below 35, the chances of getting pregnant is higher than when you are above 35.
Why is that?
Biologically, that is how we are made. As you grow as a woman, the number of eggs that you have reduce, and you don't ovulate often, and so your chances of getting pregnant decreases as you grow as a woman. For the men, it also has something to do with what we call spermatogenesis as they grow, but it's not as bad as that of the woman. A man at 70 can still impregnate a woman, but a woman After 35, it is a problem.
Does the manner in which the couple meet play a role in whether they get pregnant or not?
It does. It plays a very big role. Now, actually, infertility is defined as the inability of a couple, not a woman, the inability of a couple to conceive or to achieve a pregnancy after 12 months of regular unprotected sexual intercourse. So regular here means 3 to 4 times a week. And so if you want to get pregnant and you are not having frequent sex, it may not happen. It may not happen. So it's important. Unfortunately, the experience of infertility is such that the relationship between the man and the woman becomes toxic. They keep fighting over whose fault it is and all of that. And so sometimes it is such that they don't even meet that often, which is something that psychologists need to look at. Now, Father mentioned that they are counseled, and you were wondering what kind of counseling we do. I would say that it is good that they go to the church for counseling. I will call that religious counseling. But if you look at the fact that they are unable to accept the problem, they also need some kind of psychosocial counseling so that they will be able to deal with the depression, they will be able to deal with the stigma outside, and they will be able to deal with the stress that they are going through.
I'll come back to you for, let me go to Reverend and ask about the economy of the parties, their economic status. Does it play a role? Do rich people get more frequently pregnant, or do poor people tend to get more frequently pregnant? Do rich people suffer infertility, or is there any evidence to that?
Not as I know. Not as I know. I think it may have to do, as Doc said, your biological makeup is very, very important, and other factors may also come to play. Education, in some studies, have been found to impact on one's, the number of times that the number of children one may like to have. The longer your education, the
more educated you are,
the higher the level of education. That means you have to spend many years schooling. By the time you finish, with your PhD, let's say you're not married. Now it's better. People are 28, 25, they have their PhDs. Those days, when you finish university at 28, 30, when do you finish your PhD? And you want to finish before you marry, then those ones can prolong. Yeah, so you were talking about the counseling. Now you gave us the various stages that people go through. One of the, reading your work, one of the things that stood out for me is the depression that persons suffering infertility tend to suffer. And I read statistics about 53% of women in Ghana who attend the hospital for treatment for infertility tend to suffer depression.
Yes. Yes.
Why is the percentage so high?
The percentage is that high, again, because of where we live, or because of our culture, and because of how we are socialized. Why is it that in the advanced countries, the depression is not that high? Because we have different cultural backgrounds. And among us here in Ghana, it is high because of what I said at the beginning. Because we have expectations before we even get married. And after the marriage, if it's not happening, then it's as if you have lost something important. And so they go through the depression in various stages, and because of what society also, the pressure from society, family and society, it also adds up to the depression. You agree with me that the usually the man's family, will come and pounce on the woman, and they are all asking why she's not getting pregnant and all of that. Everything contributes to the depression. Sometimes people are even conversing without saying anything about the couple. But once the couple is around and they hear that conversation, they are depressed, and we call that internal, that is associated with some internal, they have stigmatized themselves, and then society would also add up to it. All of that contributes
to the extent that they themselves then become suspicious. Even when the conversation is unrelated, they assume it.
They assume it.
That's
yes.
Dr. Florence Nab. You're watching PM Express, and we are talking infidelity. Did I say infidelity?
Yes.
Infertility and the problems that this causes for many, many homes. We are taking a short break. When we come back, I'll be asking them, how can families deal with this? Are there remedies available? How can one obtain those remedies? You're watching PM Express. Keep watching. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and we are talking infertility. My guests are Reverend Father Johannes Minta. He's a marriage counselor, and Dr. Florence Nab. She's a researcher, a lecturer. She's everything relating to infertility. Before we went on the break, we're talking about, are there remedies? Appears to be a pervasive problem, causes a lot of pain. Is there help? Where can one get the help?
Yes, there's help in Ghana, but not complete. Not complete because in my work I describe infertility as a biopsychosocial problem. And the problems are those...
Please break it down for me. Biopsychosocial problem.
Biopsychosocial problem.
That's mouthful.
Yes, that means that biologically there are problems, and the problems are what I enumerated earlier. You go to the hospital, whatever is diagnosed are the biological problems. Psychologically there are problems, and socially there are problems. So that means that if we are managing infertility, we have to be able to manage the three. If you manage one and leave one, it doesn't help very much, because there's a link between the biological and the psychosocial problems.
I'll come back to you and explore that link. Let me go to Reverend and ask, does the church help in managing infertility?
Before I answer that question, I would like to add something to what Doc was saying. You see, in all this, they have their own spiritual connotations. Okay. You know the traditional Ghanaian concept of man, okay, and how human beings are made. And the fact that children are linked between the living and the dead. Okay, so because the world is made up of the living, the dead, and yet unborn. Okay, and the fact that through children, ancestors visit the home, and through so it's a whole, you know, long religious rituals and other things associated with the fact that you have no child. Okay, so even in managing, how do you manage it? It's so difficult, because you have to try from religious perspective, from the social, from the biological, from this and that, and until the person gets one, the person will not be happy. I know a woman who is 60 years, still moving from one church to the other.
60?
60.
Still believes that God is still in the miracle business.
God is still in the miracle business. And she moves from church 1 to church 2 because she wants to make babies. You know, so at 60,
is that a realistic expectation?
You see, not because the one is going through medical treatment, but through prayers. And so how do you manage such a woman? How do you manage such a woman? Among the talents of Northern Ghana, there is a saying that a man who does not marry must examine his head. And not only about the marriage, because they know that marriage must be followed by something. Among the evils of Nigeria, it's children are very key, and not only children, but male. You know, so yeah, you can even have 20 kids, but if there's no boy, you are in trouble. Your marriage is still in danger. So all these things, women are carrying these pains and burdens, and the men are going scot-free. Yeah.
And my question was, is the church playing a role in a manner that it ought to be playing in helping people to deal with these problems?
Yes, yes. Whereas the church at one point is trying very hard and doing very well, at that point it's even making matters worse. Okay. Healing and deliverance. And deliverance is about what? You are possessed by demons. That's why you can't make babies. So let us drive out the demonic spirit in you so they can make a child. Okay. Just imagine. And being in church and every day they are talking about, okay, those who don't have children, come forward and we are going to pray for you. You know, and they do it because see, these new age pastors, they know their clients. They know what they want to achieve. They know some social needs. They have studied the religious terrain of the traditional African and know that children are very important. And so every crusade, every program, every Sunday in church, the prayer is about those who have no children. Imagine. So what happens? Okay.
So you finished.
But the other side that the church is trying is that the church gives a lot of support to childless couples. In our case, okay, priests are not married, we have no kids, so it becomes very easy to relate very well with the people. But some will even tell you, oh, Father, but you decided not to have babies.
It's a matter of a choice.
It's a matter of a choice, yeah. But I want it, so even that, you see. So even at that level, there's this kind of complications. You decide not to have it, but I want it. I'm married, and it's expected that I make babies.
Reverend Dr. Nab, you are not looking at things from the church's point of view. You are looking at psychosocial, medical, and all of that. And you're trying to distinguish between some linkages between the two.
Yes. So I mentioned that there's a link between the biological factors and the psychosocial problems. One of the psychosocial problems is stress. Stress. Depression is another. Stigma is one. Social isolation.
By stress,
is also
what
one.
do you mean? For my grandmother in the village, what does stress mean?
Stress is an emotional reaction of the body, that the body goes through because of a painful situation or because of an unwanted situation. So in case of infertility, the thing that is causing the stress or the unwanted situation is the inability to get pregnant. And so the worries that they have, the way they think about it, put them into the stress. Now, physiologically, when you are stressed, your body produces a lot of stress hormones. And one of the hormones that is produced when you are stressed is called prolactin. And in a woman, when this prolactin, if you are not lactating and the prolactin level is high, it's the same hormone that helps to produce breast milk. So if you are not lactating and then this level of the hormone is high, as a woman, it prevents you from ovulation. So that is the link between the psychological problem and then the biological problems. So it means that even if you are going for treatment for the biological problem and you are not able to deal with the depression, you can't deal with the stress and all of that, as a woman you won't ovulate and the pregnancy will not happen. It also affects, stress also affects the man. It affects the spermatogenesis of that is the sperm formation. Stress affects it. And so it's important that we are able to, if we are managing them, we manage the biological factors and manage the psychosocial factors.
I want to open the phone line so that we can get a few viewers to join us with any experiences they have and any questions that they may want my guests to answer. The phone line is 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. The numbers are also crawling on your screen. You can call us, give us a call, tell us your problems or share an experience or make any contribution you wish to make to this discussion. Until I pick any calls, let me come back to you, Doc. So a couple are married. You give us a definition that says if they have regular sex, and this is regular means
3 to 4
times a week for 12 months and there's no pregnancy, then there's a problem.
Yes.
When that happens, what is the first action?
The first action is for the couple to go to the hospital. That's what usually happens. So they go to the hospital, the diagnosis is done, they are undergoing treatment, and that's it. Currently, that's what we do in Ghana. Nobody...
And the treatment involves what?
The treatment is purely medical, depending on what they find. So if it's an infection, they may be put on some antibiotics. If they find out that maybe the woman is not ovulating, they may give drugs for the woman to ovulate. If it's found out that maybe the man has some low sperm count, they may also give treatment for that. And that is it. But they go back home with the worries and the anxiety. Nobody takes care of that. And that is why we have OHAPD. So because they need help to be able to understand what is happening. Now, in my research, I also found that when people are struggling with infertility, the mere fact that they don't even understand this infertility causes anxiety. So if somebody is able to explain to them, that will bring down their level of anxiety.
Reverend, do you, when you are counseling people before they get married, do you explain to them the fact that it is possible that they may not have children?
Oh, I do that. In fact, that is the first, I begin with that you came with your own personal expectations. But I don't think that that's the reality.
Okay, Reverend, I have to interrupt your submission. I have to pick a call from Melvin from Bimbilla. Melvin, if you can hear me, welcome to PM Express.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Melvin. What's your contribution?
Yeah, I want to know how, like, my lady go through the 30 days cycle, but very difficult to conceive.
She goes through the cycle, all right, but it's very difficult to conceive.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll ask my guests for an explanation.
Oh.
There's Razak. There is Razak also on the phone. Razak, if you can hear me, welcome to PM Express. What's your contribution?
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Razak.
Okay, please, what I'm having is that I have a situation whereby the lady will become bleed at least 2 times a month. So with that, we have very difficult on that.
Okay.
So I don't know whether there is problem about her or what is the issue. That is what I want to find out.
Okay. Thank you, Razak. I will get you responses to that question. There is Apia on the line. Apia, welcome to PM Express. What's your contribution?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Apia.
I want to contribute on the
yes, please go ahead.
It's a married man.
Okay.
And I'm married about 8 years ago.
Okay.
Our first child was 8 years. But since then, it's getting to more than 8 years now. We didn't get any.
Okay. So, Apia, your question is you've had a child, but since then you haven't had any more children.
And when we went to hospital, and the first day we went to hospital, me and my wife.
Apia, I can't quite hear you again. If you're still on the line, can you finish your point so that we can move on?
And I said the first time we went to hospital, and doctor said we went to hospital and they examined us, the woman said there's no, they let the woman lying down and use some machine to examine, and they said there's no problem.
So she's fine.
But when we come home, it's getting to 9 months now. Up to now, we didn't see any treatment, and I want to,
Okay. Thanks, Apia. We will get a response for you. Let's pick a call from Raura. Nyamicha, if you can hear me, what's your contribution? Okay, we've lost him on the line. But so, Reverend Doc, you've heard the complaints. This one says they've had a kid. It's been 8 years since there is no more kid. Another one says, Razak says his wife bleeds twice a month. So how is that?
So I would like to start with the one who has who bleeds yet is not getting pregnant. The fact that a woman menstruates doesn't mean that automatically she can get pregnant. So you can ovulate. I mean, you can menstruate without ovulating. So that means that to make it simple, you are not releasing. You are menstruating, but you are not releasing the egg
to be fertilized.
To be fertilized. So it happens. It could also be that the woman has too many psychosocial problems, as I described. So she's menstruating, she's ovulating all right, but the level of her prolactin is so high that is preventing her to get pregnant. So there are two things. It's either she goes to the hospital to find out if she's ovulating, or if she has already done that, then she has to seek some psychosocial counseling to deal with the problems so that her body can come back.
What about
normal.
this woman who bleeds twice in a month? Is that normal?
It's not normal to bleed twice a month. So I would advise that they see a medical person to sort that out. That is definitely a problem. It's abnormal for a woman to bleed twice a month.
And Reverend, this one says they have a kid, they got married, they have a kid. It's been 8 years since they've not had any child again. Does that happen? Is that common?
Oh, it does. Some can make only one. Not everybody can make more than a child. So it's helping people to accept some of these things, okay, is very difficult. I know a woman who had 2 kids. The last one at the time was in the 3rd year university, okay, when accidentally she got pregnant. But she didn't even know. Remember, this is about 25 years gap, okay, between the second girl and the one that she made.
Wow.
Yeah, so some of these things, they do happen. Mysterious law, miraculous law, whatever name one wants to call it, it can happen. If you're not lucky to, if you're not fortunate, it might not happen.
Doc, is there a medical explanation for that?
Yes. Actually, there are 2 main types of infertility. We have the primary infertility, and this one has to do with a woman or a couple that has never conceived.
That's primary infertility.
That's primary infertility. Then we also have the secondary infertility. They've been able to conceive regardless of the outcome. Whether that child is living or was aborted is a conception. But subsequent conceptions won't happen. In Africa, the secondary infertility is what is more common among us, and it's as a result of untreated sexually transmitted infections. So it's not unusual in Africa to see a woman who has had a child or 2 and then it's not coming again. Yeah, and the fact that you've had a child before doesn't mean that you cannot have infertility in the future.
So it is entirely possible that this can happen.
It's possible.
So
possible.
Let's deal with the remedy. So Ella, I was asking you, so you said if a couple for 12 months regular interaction and there's no pregnancy, they should go to the hospital,
yes,
and then they can make diagnosis, and then what next?
Now, when they make the diagnosis and they start the medical treatment, it is appropriate that they also refer them for counseling. Now, this counseling that I'm talking about it's not just the religious counseling. Yes, people can go to the church for religious counseling, but you also need a psychotherapist or a psychologist to help you deal with the problems. Because when we are dealing with infertility, when you go for counseling once, it came out in my research, it doesn't help. Twice doesn't help. 3 times doesn't help. They start to digest or really take in the information by the 5th or 6th session. And so one-time counseling doesn't really help. So if they start the medical treatment, remember I said it's a biopsychosocial problem. So once you have started the medical problem, it means you are managing the biological aspect, but you also need to manage the psychosocial aspect. And that's when they should be referred to a psychologist for counseling.
Doc, Reverend, we know that this is so important in Ghana. Why is it that infertility is not considered a medical problem?
Gradually, and I know with a growing literate population, people are becoming aware. But you see, faith is also another thing. You may know that medically is not possible, but we think they can try other things. And some may even end up, taking all kinds of herbal preparations and concoctions. They think that if medical, orthodox medicine cannot do it, other things may. Try and error comes in. Then you jump from one prayer, come to the other.
Is there evidence that this works?
That, they say it works. See, some of these things very difficult to, because before the person even gets pregnant, she has gone to many places that don't even know which of them really helped. I hope you get what I mean. Yeah, so in the end, I was at the prayer camp, I went for here, taking this. So in the end,
when the results come, you don't really know who to attribute to.
know.
Let me pick a call from Yusuf Nwa. Yusuf, if you can hear me, please be snappy. We don't have too much time. What's your contribution? Yusuf can't appear to hear me. William from Hohoy, let me pick this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so go ahead.
Hello?
Please go ahead.
Hello?
He doesn't appear
Hello?
to hear me. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. If somebody is suffering from, say, a low sperm count, and then he goes in and treats it, and probably works, is it possible that the low sperm count could come back again after some years or something like that?
Okay. All right, thank you very much. That's a caller from Hohoy. Is it possible that you treat low sperm count and then it goes away and then it resurfaces?
Yes, it's possible, because if the low sperm count has something to do with a lifestyle problem, like taking in excessive alcohol or excessive smoking. So if you are told to stop drinking and then you take the treatment, the problem is solved, and after some time you go back to the drinking, yes, it will happen again. But if it is something, the cause is something physiological, and that problem, so for instance, maybe some undescended testes, and they've been able to bring down the testes, then the problem is solved. But if mostly low sperm count has to do with lifestyle problems, those that come, they treat, and then it comes back, it's a lifestyle problem. There's something you are doing that you are not supposed to do, that you take the treatment, it treats, and then you go back to that lifestyle, and it will continue to come.
Reverend, in 30 seconds, because we have just 1 minute left, I'm splitting you. In 30 seconds, when all of the things that both you and Doc talked about are unable to resolve the problem, what do you tell the couple?
Accept it as it is, learn to live with it. Okay, take it as your cross. It's not even a cross. You see, you can be happy in your marriage without a child. Adopt a child from somewhere. Take one of your cousins, your nephews, nieces, take good care of the person. That's all.
Doc, so Oh Happy Day Foundation, somebody needs help, can they contact you? What kind of help can you give in 30 seconds?
Yes, we provide psychosocial counseling for people with infertility, and then we also provide counseling for people with general psychosocial problems. Our office is located in Accra Central, on the 3rd floor of Ghana House. We also have a website, www.allhappydayfoundation.org, and then you can reach us on phone 030-263 9617, or the mobile phone or WhatsApp. You can send us a WhatsApp 050-044-8982.
Okay, that's Dr. Florence Nab. She's a lecturer, University of Ghana Nursing and Midwifery School, Reverend Father Johannes, I always struggle with this name. Johannes Menta, he's a marriage counselor. It's been beautiful, beautiful having the two of you join us to deal with this very, very important discussion. God willing, we will bring you another exciting discussion on PM Express. Until then, my name is Malik Abbas Dabu.